the Dorton Arena in Raleigh, Thursday, May 7th at 8:15 for the World Junior Heavyweight title. The champion, Lazertron, goes up against Nelson Royal. Jimmy the Boogie Boogie Man Valiant will take on Gladiator #1. A match for the #1 contender for the U.S. Tag Team title. The Midnight Express with Jim Cornette will take on the Rock and Roll Express. And in the cage, it's Ole Anderson against Tully Blanchard. That's all in Raleigh at the Dorton Arena. #1 contender for the U.S. Tag Team title, the Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette.
You know, Tony, I wish I could tell you exactly how sick I am of talking about this subject. You see, like I've told everybody before, I'll tell them again, the Rock and Roll Express, you don't have those world title belts that you were so proud of anymore. You're not the #1 contenders to nothing. You're just like everybody else. You're not any better than anybody else, and you sure ain't better than the Midnight Express. The Midnight Express are not #1 contenders, Tony, because it's obvious to anybody that looks at them, we're real champions. We can't chase down any cowardly champions in a ring to get belts, but we're champions. We're the best. We don't need to be #1 contenders to anything. So Rock and Roll Express, we're going to make this personal. All those little teeny boppers that yell at you, all those little kids that love you so much, all those rock and roll freaks that think you're so great, we're going to make this a personal issue to put them down, to show them the error of their ways, and at the same time to prove to you, Rock and Roll Express, that you ain't never been or ever will be the tag team the Midnight Express is, and if we got to thump you off right there in Raleigh to do it, that's what we're going to do.
In a cage, it's Ole Anderson against Tully Blanchard.
You know, the time has come, Ole, to put this thing to rest, to end it once and for all, and this is the way to do it. The state capital of North Carolina, in the Dorton Arena. Ole Anderson, you and me. I guess it all started when you called me an outsider. That started the whole thing. The demise of Ole Anderson, the decline. You know, from the heights that you once were, Ole, to being one of the greatest horsemen to what you are today. You know, it's a sad state of affairs. But, you know, in Raleigh, it's going to be all settled. Baseball bats don't need to come, just man to man, eyeball to eyeball. In this cage right here, nobody in, nobody out, unless maybe I can stick you through and stuff you through one of these links.
Dorton Arena in Raleigh, Thursday, May 7th at 8:15 for the World Junior title. It's Lazertron against Nelson Royal. Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant will take on Gladiator #1. #1 contender match for the U.S. Tag Team title. The Midnight Express with Jim Cornette against the Rock and Roll Express. And then in the cage, it's Ole Anderson against Tully Blanchard. That's all in Raleigh. Let's bring in Jim Cornette against the Rock and Roll Express.
How long is it going to take you, Tony Schiavone, to get it through your head? How long is it going to take these idiots to get it through their heads that we're not the #1 contenders for anything? That the Rock and Roll Express, don't say I know till I tell you why. That the Rock and Roll Express are not the #1 contenders to anything, because the fact of the matter is, Rock and Roll, you don't have those world belts that you love so much. You don't have any kind of belt. You don't have nothing. You know better than anybody else, and you're a lot worse than some people. And the fact of the matter is, the Midnight Express are not #1 contenders because we're champions. We are true, real champions. You can look at them and see that. They're the greatest tag team there's ever been. The only problem is we can't chase down any champions to get any belts. So the fact is, Rock and Roll, what you are is a thorn in our side. We're going to make this personal, not for any contendership because we know who's got that, but personal, Rock and Roll, for you and all your little teeny bopper fans. I promise you, we're going to thump you off in Raleigh.
In a cage, it's Ole Anderson against Tully Blanchard.
You know, Ole, when you were a horseman and we were in the gym and everything was the family, Ole, Arn, Tully, and Rick, and JJ managing the money, that's what it was. Everything was flourishing. Everything was great. It was fantastic, and that's the way it was. And then, you know, Ole, you said, here comes that outsider. You know, he's not family. He's not this. But, you know, Ole, family is a state of mind. It's not blood. It's the way you feel about one another. And that's just exactly what it was. The Horseman family. And you know, Ole, that time on national television when you hit me and slapped JJ, well, it's all coming to a head. This is it. The finale. There's no more, Ole. There's no need for any more. It's just you and me inside the cage. Nobody gets in, nobody gets out, and it's 2 men in and 1 man walks out.
And a reminder, the NWA returns to Raleigh and the Dorton Arena with a super spectacular card. Thursday, May 7th, the bell time there is 8:15. On the card, Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. Lazertron defends a World Junior Heavyweight title against Nelson Royal. You'll see a match to determine the #1 contender for the U.S. Tag Team title as the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette will take on the Rock and Roll Express. And then in the cage, it's Ole Anderson against Tully Blanchard with James J. Dillon. Thursday, May 7th, 8:15 at the Dorton Arena in Raleigh. Let's bring in James J. Dillon in the cage in Raleigh. Tully Blanchard, Ole Anderson.
Tony Schiavone, this thing with Ole Anderson has tested my patience to the absolute limit. And something drastic has to be done. Ole Anderson, you're stubborn and pig-headed, and any pig that I've ever saw has been encased in just such a housing as this. So I guess you're going to feel right at home. And it's going to be a little difficult for Mr. Blanchard for a couple minutes to kind of adjust himself to being confined inside a cage. The only difference is I'm going to instill in him for days before the match ever takes place that this is the only way to deal with somebody like you. I've tried all other avenues, and I'd hoped it would have been over a long time ago. And just maybe, Ole Anderson, maybe I underestimated you. But I think I've got what I have to call the final solution. Because Tully Blanchard, in the last 2 years, has not let me down on one occasion. Plus, he himself has a strong personal interest because it was you, Ole Anderson, that called him the World Television Champion, an outsider. It was you that punched him on national television. And then when you slapped me, you got a little taste of what happens when you make Tully Blanchard mad. Well, he's going to be real mad when he comes to Dorton Arena on Thursday, May 7th. Ole Anderson, this is going to be your swan song right here in Raleigh.
But now let's talk about the Dorton Arena in Raleigh and the NWA coming your way. Thursday, May 7th. The bell time is 8:15 in Raleigh. On the card, you'll see such stars as Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. Also on the card, you will see for the World Junior Heavyweight title, Lazertron defend against Nelson Royal. A tag team match to determine the #1 contender for the U.S. Tag Team title. The Midnight Express with Jim Cornette will take on the Rock and Roll Express. And in the cage, it's Ole Anderson against Tully Blanchard with James J. Dillon. Here's Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express against the Midnight Express.
All right, Tony, back to Raleigh. One more time, the heart of rock and roll. You see Jimmy Cornette. You have put together the new Midnight Express. You says better, new, and improved. What's it going to be next time, baby? Extra crispy. But let me tell you, you can bring Stan Lane down there. You can bring around along Bobby Eaton. Because we're going to do the same thing we always done with the other Midnight Express. Because you see, Jimmy Cornette, we have stood in your way. And everything that you have done, everything that you tried to accomplish, it was the Rock and Roll Express that knocked you out. You know why, Jimmy Cornette? Because we don't like the shoes that you walk in, Jack. We don't like nothing about you. Not anything. Because the whole world knows that you, Bobby Eaton, and Stan Lane are all closet queens, Jack. And we're going to prove it in Raleigh, North Carolina. Woo! Can't wait till we get there, Tony. You see, they say that the Midnight Express is a unique team. But the way you beat a unique team is unique upon them, baby. And that's what's going to happen. Rick Morton and Robert Gibson, we're going to the top again, baby. You know, they said the cream always rises to the top. But you see, Jimmy Cornette, in your case, it's the scum in the sewer, Jack. So we'll see you right at doom. May the 7th, get it ready, Dorton Arena. Because when we hit the ring, baby, we're going to be ready. We're going to electrify everybody in the whole building. So be ready and hold on tight. Because we're going to explode like dynamite. There's only one express around here, Jimmy Cornette, and you heard it many, many times. It's the Rock and Roll Express. Not the Midnight Express, baby, but you don't think it's midnight when we get through with you because the lights are going out in Raleigh, Durham. Woo! Be ready, baby. Rock and roll is forever, and rock and roll will be here May the 7th.